Hello, welcome to the stream. Getting all my T's crossed, I's dotted here. Hopefully everything is where we need it to be. Almost, actually. A little low. Don't want to hear it as loudly. Okay, well, welcome. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for being here. As always, we have sort of a theme to the stream, a stream theme, if you will, but we won't be getting to it right away, and it won't dominate the whole stream. We're mostly here just to chat and hang out, and yeah, feel free to put your thoughts into the chat. Unless that's too intimidating. But yeah, our stream theme today is amazing. I keep forgetting the name. Amazing Digital Circus, which is already made the rounds. I think everybody paying attention to animation is already aware of this pilot. To call it an extremely successful animation pilot would be understatement. 3 weeks, 81 million views, I think. 3 weeks on YouTube. And as I mentioned last week, when I think I got the title wrong, you just can't ignore that kind of success, and I have seen some decent coverage in the wake of its success, talking about like, oh, this is really great news for independent animation in general, and you know, it's an exciting time for independent animation. And the people involved with this project have been, seems like they're getting ready to do some press. But yeah, it's just worth talking about, and up to this point, I have saved myself. I have been able to avoid actually watching the pilot at all. I have not been one of the 80 million views thus far. So that's what we're gonna do. I won't be able to show you the show on the screen, and I'll have to mute the audio, so it's a limited reaction situation, but I'll be doing it just the same. I have this here as well to kind of track where I am in the video, in the pilot, in case you would like to watch along. So we'll be doing that a little bit later. I think the pilot's around 25 minutes long, so maybe, let's say, by 6:30 around then we'll try to do that. But otherwise, as usual, going through some of the news in animation recently, and just having a chat about things, and not just animation. There is some filmmaking and I guess technically video game news that I also want to cover, but we'll see about that. We'll see about that, because today I'm just very, very tired. I'm very tired, and I'm tempted to with one topic in particular, I'm tempted to be very negative and very mean about the whole thing. And I probably shouldn't. But at the same time, it does seem like it would be kind of cathartic to get into a particular topic there. So, as always, yeah, see how it goes. But in the meantime, if you have any sort of recommendations for things I should be checking out, if you have some thoughts on recent releases or upcoming releases that you would like to share, go right ahead. Yeah. And then I'll cruise through some of good old Cartoon Brew here, doing their best to keep us up to date on animation industry news. Something I will not be diving into detail at all on is that apparently Apple wants another Peanuts movie, which is if you're unaware of the situation with the previous Peanuts movie, which is what, like 2015, was it? That was produced by Blue Sky, animation, which doesn't exist anymore because Disney bought them and then killed them. So it's interesting to me that apparently Apple still owns the rights to that property, I guess, despite the fact that that Peanuts movie I just mentioned is on Disney Plus. So I would have thought, I don't know, maybe that came with the luggage for Blue Sky, but somehow they didn't nab the Peanut. It's very strange. That kind of stuff gets very confusing. Regardless, okay, it's the same director as the previous movie. I am fine with that. I don't think I have any. I did like the 2015 movie or whatever year that was. Um, I thought it was great. I made a whole video about it, and I do like the Peanuts in general. So I guess I'm happy to hear about this. At the same time, it's Apple. It's a corner of the streaming market that really, really, really hasn't paid off very well, seemingly so far. Apple TV Plus or whatever they're calling it nowadays just doesn't seem to be cutting it. And particularly when it comes to more like children's oriented stuff, it just doesn't quite feel like it works to me. You know what it reminds me of? This is just like the it's part and parcel of Apple's like overall brand image and how that brand image translates to their streaming service is and you can see this through like who they've chosen to work with, especially upon launch of Apple TV Plus. They were partnering with like Spielberg, right? That's a really good and brief example. Is like Spielberg obviously has broad appeal. A lot of his work has had incredibly broad appeal, but current modern day Spielberg probably appeals more to an older audience, right? And I think that's most of Apple TV Plus's image right now is, yeah, adult audiences, older audiences possibly, and it feels very formal. Like Apple is not a brand that is known nowadays for being like fun and exciting. It's about sleek, it's about professional, intense, top of the line, all that. So when they do finally put in the effort to produce something for specifically for children or family audiences, it kind of feels like it's there's a big corporate skyscraper and it's just busy business people in there all the time. They wear nothing but gray clothing, and they always just look sort of miserable. And one day, somebody is just forced to bring in their young kid, and they're like, "Hey, do we have any like sort of daycare situation? Do we have something that could entertain this child while I do my job?" And the company's like, "Well, we have some highlighters. We have highlighters and computer paper." Like that's that's what Apple TV Plus's children's entertainment feels like to me. It feels like marginal accommodations for an audience that is just well outside of what they're actually aiming for. It doesn't feel like they planned for that. They did not plan to be entertaining children. So despite the fact that something like Wolfwalkers is excellent in its own right, it's not Bluey. It's not this massive expandable thing that can potentially keep kids coming back over and over and rewatching stuff all the time. Anyway, so I have a feeling this subsequent Peanuts sequel will be just fine. I think it'll be a-okay, especially for like existing fans. But that'll be it. I don't anticipate a big splash sort of after the fact or anything like that. Cool. All right. So something else I should probably run through here is just one of these. I say this all the time, but I actually really appreciate when Cartoon Brew does these roundups, essentially, of upcoming releases. And this one in particular is looking a little bit further into the future for all of next year, all of 2024, what is currently slated to release next year. And most of the time, I find that I just haven't heard of, a lot of the projects. So even right off the bat, I I guess I could say that I didn't really expect Despicable Me in particular as a franchise compared to Minions to continue on to this extent. Um, but simultaneously, of course, we have to expect it. Like, of course, we have to expect Illumination to continue with anything that is still financially viable, right? And that still has a big amount of name recognition. And even in Illumination's own, self-promotion stuff or logo animations, things like that, they will continue to use Despicable Me. Like, it's not a big movie in my personal history. It's not something that had a big impact on me. At the time, it just came and went, and I thought it was okay. But clearly, for Illumination, this continues to be one of the big brands, so they will just keep cranking them out. I don't have much interest in it, but there you go. I can't say I'm too surprised. This is a pretty interesting one here. So this is an adult animation feature, which on its own, not super common, are they? And when they do come around, they're not typically blockbuster, smash hits. They do okay. They make a fair amount of money, mostly in the U.S., and then they're gone. And of course, on top of the fact that it is an adult animation feature, we have Genndy Tartakovsky at the helm. Still with Sony Pictures Animation. I guess he must have some kind of overall deal with them, right? Or something close to it. He seems to be very much in the Sony camp these days and has been for quite a while. New Line Cinema as the distributor, I feel, is also a pretty strange situation. I'm not aware of New Line putting out just about any animation. Does anyone know if they have distributed other animated films? With them, I just think, Friday the 13th, the early slasher movies and stuff, obviously Lord of the Rings. And I think they've done some indies along the way, even after getting big, but I can't think of anything where they've distributed animation. Anyway, Genndy Tartakovsky, if you don't know, you probably already know, but a pretty famous, I guess, Russian-American animator who was very heavily involved in Dexter's Laboratory and, of course, Samurai Jack and its reboot. He has also been heading up, as far as I can tell, at least from the director's chair, he's been heading up the Hotel Transylvania movies, too, which have been going on for quite a while at this point. So, yeah, generally very well liked, I think, in the animation community. A particular style, and he seems to have a very strong affection for golden era American animation. He's a big Popeye fan. He tried to get a Popeye CG movie going at Sony, and it just disappeared at some point. I don't know why. Here you go. Here is a movie, a Genndy movie about a dog who's going to be neutered the next morning, and he's going to go on some kind of raunchy adventures, I guess. Okay. All right. I can't say that I would be super excited to see this in the theaters, but I am still interested for sure. Another Garfield movie. Okay. This is also at Sony, or distributed by Sony. And here's a point to highlight, of course, Mark Dindal. I thought it was funny because the article here mentions that Dindal directed, I think co-directed, The Emperor's New Groove and Cats Don't Dance. Also, we don't need an apostrophe here. I think that's a European thing, right? Like certain European languages, they make a word plural by adding apostrophe S instead of just the S. Anyway, I thought it was funny because they mentioned these, which are good moves, very famous, well-loved movies. But I always go to Chicken Little. Mark Dindal directed Chicken Little, and I made a video about it, so I think forever that's the go-to when I hear Mark Dindal's name. That's the word association. and a screenwriter who worked on Finding Nemo. All right, okay. This comes out in May. I don't know. I would be interested to hear about the cast for this one. If anybody has information on the cast for this animated Garfield movie, please let me know. There's that. In Your Dreams. I'm sorry, I read this. I don't have much to say on it right now. Sequel to Inside Out, because why not, right? You do get the sense that over at Pixar, that's just the constant, maybe backup plan for filling in holes for, planning out their programming for years into the future. It's just, let's do a sequel to one of our big, golden age Pixar movies. And I do think we could consider the original Inside Out movie within that stretch, right? Even if it did come after Cars 2, and I don't remember whether it did, it was still one of the good ones for sure. One of the very good ones. Can't ignore it, And yeah, why not a sequel? Apparently, it was announced in 2022. I feel like we were aware of this earlier, or maybe it was just that after the first movie released, was there a tease that they would do something with Riley as a teenager, or was it that just something like people joked about? Regardless, I do think I have the feeling that I heard about that idea long before this was officially announced. So I don't know why exactly. But there you go. It's Inside Out too. Riley is a teenager this time. Also, this a quick note on my own misunderstanding here. Feature a new set of personified emotions that haven't yet been named. So what that actually means is that talking about the film, Pixar has not announced which new emotions will join the cast, right? But I read this as like personified emotions that haven't yet been named in human society as a whole. Like, we're gonna get crazy. We are gonna get it into some extremely specific emotions for this movie, but that's wrong. I just read that wrong. I do think it would be fun though. Okay, real quick, another thing that obviously we probably should expect to continue until it is no longer profitable. The good old Kung Fu Panda franchise at this point, which is a strange thing to be saying. And even this, like, I get it's just a teaser poster, but like, what are they trying to convey? They are trying to convey it is more Kung Fu Panda. It's more Kung Fu Panda. We will absolutely get our hands on Jack Black if at all possible, and that's the movie. You don't need to worry about the story. You don't need to worry about characters, and our lead, of course, is going to be the same character, period. So there you go. This is one I was not aware of. It is at least whining about, I guess, for a second. But yes, we have a prequel to this article is specifically calling it a prequel to the live action Lion King, as opposed to just being a prequel to Lion King as a whole, as a concept. I yeah. Rightfully points out that the live action remake did make roughly $1 billion gross. Meaning gross take. I wasn't calling it gross, although why not? Yeah, what else do we say? I mean, no one on the internet ever needs to talk about the live action Lion King remake ever again. We've done our part. We're good to go. I'm a sucker for a prequel, like, regardless of what the property is. It could even be something I'm completely unaware of, like a series I don't even know about, but a prequel is more interesting to me. Not necessarily origins. There's something about going backwards in a movie series as opposed to just forward chronologically that's appealing to me for some reason. And I mean, hey, in terms of brand recognition, they're doing just fine. Mufasa, people immediately get the image in their heads. They know who you're talking about, and they're curious, probably, of what you're going to do with this. I sure hope they're not casting James Earl Jones for this. I mean, it wouldn't fit, obviously, but he's just also, I don't know, maybe it's time for us to leave him alone, Maybe it's time for him to just be allowed to completely retire and not, be trotted out for various Disney properties. That's July. Obviously, they're planning for it to be a big summer movie, and based on the information I have right now, I guess it will be. I guess we can basically just count on this to be a hit because it's Lion King, I guess. So yeah, there we have it. But I should skip ahead a little bit, I guess. There's a SpongeBob movie, Sandy Cheeks movie, but SpongeBob franchise. Whatever this is, Skydance. Okay. That Christmas. That's a weird one to be looking out for so early, like almost a full 12 months until this will actually release. My goodness. Helma the Unicorn looks terrifying. Who is this? Micros animation. I don't know. Based on book series. Okay, whatever. All right. We talked about the Looney Tunes movie previously. There's apparently an animated Lord of the Rings movie happening. Whatever, I guess. And other things I don't really care to comment on right now. So I will move on to this. I'll move on to this. And again, feel free to interrupt me. I feel like I'm going to rant about this for a little while. I'll try to keep it relatively condensed so I can get on to watching the circus short. But yeah, I need to. So this is the news. You've probably heard the news already if you're at all, into video games or specifically Nintendo stuff. Then you've definitely already seen. Broke yesterday, I think, through an official Nintendo announcement, and it's not Nintendo that I really want to criticize here at all. Like I did not have any kind of significant expectations for the Mario movie being good, which is fine because it wasn't a good movie. I didn't like it. I didn't think it was of quality or substance, but I was fine. I would whatever. It's Nintendo. They're not exactly in touch with Western filmmaking culture or something. I think so much of that creative input was just from Illumination themselves, and that's why it came out as an incredibly generic children's movie, animated children's movie. So I'm not terribly mad at Nintendo for deciding to do something with Zelda, and I'm not even especially mad that they're deciding to do it as live action as opposed to animation. You could do an incredibly cool animated adaptation of Zelda, but okay, whatever. They flipped a coin. They decided to go live action. And it's especially unsurprising because we had previously heard a good few years ago that Nintendo was planning to do some sort of Zelda, live-action Zelda adaptation, either a show or a movie, with Netflix. And I believe at the time of those rumors or those announcements, Tom Holland was supposed to be the lead as Link. Anyway, that project got scrapped. I think because Nintendo got mad at Netflix, or they didn't want this info out so early or something like that. So they said, no, we're not working with you anymore, which in hindsight, not great news for Netflix, huh? The Mario movie was a slight success earlier this year. Okay, so, and you know what? I'm not even mad at the relative hacks that they seem to have attached to this project, such as a guy called Wes Ball, who's just, as far as I can tell, is director for hire kind of guy. A long history in VFX work, it seems, as well. And basically his only Hollywood stuff as a director has been Maze Runner movies, which, fine. Very middle of the road. Very standard, on trend for when those movies were released. I'm not, whatever. It's a job. He seems into it. Go for it, dude. I don't really care. And there's some, a producer here who does not inspire any sort of confidence in me about casting and stuff, but I'm not mad I'm not upset by any of the things I've heard, that directly pertain to this announcement. But rather, I have been really disappointed and kind of annoyed and frustrated by the coverage that I've seen of this so far, specifically from the video gaming content creation community. Uh, Very odd. And this is something that it's there's a bit of carryover, I guess, from when all the Mario movie stuff was happening, and I was similarly frustrated with the coverage and kind of shocked at just how many people working in that space of video game content creation don't seem to have anything insightful or intelligent to say about any of it. And the same thing happened with the live action Sonic movies. Like, I've been consistently disappointed with the taste of not necessarily video game fans, for these adaptations, but with people who talk constantly about video games on the internet and what they had to say about those kinds of projects. And it's been a very similar thing here. And I'm not going to name names because obviously I'm not trying to get you mad at these people. I'm not trying to call them out or anything. But I am frustrated with the things they said. So I'll touch on it briefly. But obviously, the casting has been a big thing here. Here's another article for you of, just speculation. Who should play these parts? Which is fun. It's a fun conversation. But my God, just stressing or highlighting the lack of insight on the part of these content creation people in the video game space. I was listening to a particular discussion video, basically a podcast, a pretty 40 minutes long, of just people, big fans of Zelda, chatting about this whole thing, and specifically talking for a while about their casting choices, or just spitballing casting ideas. And within a relatively short span of time, I heard the suggestions for Idris Elba for Ganondorf, Kumail Nanjiani for Ganondorf, and to play Princess Zelda herself. I heard someone suggest, they literally just said, there are a bunch of actors who have played princesses in other movies. We'll get one of them. Very funny to me. Very funny to me how all of those suggestions are just extremely uncreative. I mean, the princess thing, for its own reasons is uncreative. But also just the idea that, what I see as an inaccurate impression that celebrity casting is the only casting possible in Hollywood. And strange, too, because so many of these same people were mocking the celebrity casting for the Mario movie, and then when the movie came out, they were just eating it up, just slurping that slop right into their food holes. And here, I don't know. I guess I shouldn't have expected anything different. I shouldn't have expected more from these, particular creators or from this community as a whole. I don't know. I also think, just to clarify, because I also heard plenty of speculation of is it going to be an original Zelda story just for this movie? Are they going to just do an adaptation of one of the games? What kinds of things would they like to include here? What kinds of characters? If you've been paying attention to Hollywood filmmaking, even if you just look at the Mario movie alone, it is incredibly clear how big Hollywood studios approach these kinds of projects. And that approach is just throw in as many things that people know as possible. You're doing an adaptation of an incredibly strong brand of a franchise. Just pick the things that most people are familiar with. It's going to be a story about Link having to beat Ganondorf, and Zelda is also involved helping beat Ganondorf, I guess. Also, hello, Son. Welcome in. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for being in the chat. Um, sorry, I'm in the middle of rambling about the Zelda movie coming out. Coming out eventually. It's a long ways away. I don't think they're really even in pre-production on it yet. But just to finish that thought, it will be the most standard story possible. It will be Link, good guy, Ganondorf, bad guy. We're in Hyrule. We probably see some of the other races, common to Hyrule, and that's it. Like, that's what it's going to be. It's it's not going to be some explosion of creativity, at least not in the story sense, Anyway, so yeah, I'm sorry for being kind of mean there and ranting a bit about some other folks who have been chatting about the Zelda movie. But like, don't know. Is it just one of those things where if you really know a lot about one subject or one medium, it doesn't carry over at all to another medium? Is that it? People who are really good at talking about video games just can't hack it when it comes to movies? I don't know. That doesn't seem right either. But that's fine. Rant over. I think I'll stop from there. But how are you doing, Son? Uh-oh. Sorry, I paused because I think my my bitrate tanked all of a sudden, and it should not have. Very inconvenient. Anyway. Soon enough, I'll be getting to the heart of the matter here. I will start watching through Amazing Digital Circus. Again, unfortunately, I can't show it. There's no way. There's no way I can show it on the screen. It's just not going to happen. So I will be watching it over here. I'll have the stopwatch going, and we'll sync up when we start it if you would like to watch along for the commentary and everything and share your own thoughts on it. That would be a lot of fun. But yeah, I'll get that started pretty soon, and I'm pretty excited. If anybody has some like non-spoilery comments to share, by the way, about Amazing Digital Circus, please feel free. I would love to hear if other people have already checked it out, if it works for them, if they're not super into it, if they don't really get the hype. Any and all comments are appreciated, as long as they're relatively polite. But yeah, I'll give it a couple more minutes, and I'll get that started. Is there anything else here worth really chatting about? Should we look at, what else do they say about this Lord of the Rings movie? Anime adaptation. The War of the Rohirrim. Sorry, I like Lord of the Rings, but I'm not a lore guy. Standalone prequel that proposes to tell the untold story behind the fortress of Helm's Deep, delving into the life and blood-soaked times of one of Middle-earth's most legendary figures, the mighty king of Rohan, Helm Hammerhand, and the Japanese studio Sola Entertainment is handling an animation. Do we know them? Does anyone else know them? What do you got? Already bragging about this one. Oh yeah, wasn't this like the Blade Runner anime thing that came out ahead of the release of 2049? Blade Runner 2049, Cyberpunk 2077, right? 2001, the year we make contact. Yeah, I don't think they did a video for Fly Low. They've done some stuff. Okay, and plenty of video game stuff as well, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Fine. I did not know it was an anime flick, but sure, why not? Let's go for it. See how that goes. Ultraman is happening. Okay. Guess that's it. Never been a big Ultraman person, by the way. I don't know if anyone else has a lot of experience with that property. Okay. Well, there you have it. This is at least a glimpse at a lot of the animated features we can expect to see next year, unless they get horribly delayed, in which case you will not see them next year. Um, and unlikely to get a lot of surprises too, except for maybe the indie scene, just because animation takes so much time to actually execute. This is most of what we can expect. So there you go. I'm vaguely curious about when the next Shrek movie is coming along. I assume that's well underway. I don't know if we've had an official announcement for when that's coming out. Um, but I am extremely curious, specifically to see how that movie looks. I want to see what that movie looks like. Um, yeah, I don't want them to backtrack from Last Wish, but at the same time, I understand that they might want that art direction, that visual style, just for Puss in. You know, it's not necessarily a great fit for the entire franchise and all the other characters, but some part of that approach of integrating more 2D art or traditional 2D art, I would love to see in Shrek. I just think it would be so much fun. All right. Okay. All right. Let's just go ahead and get this started up. So, just so we have something on the screen, I'm going to put this. Okay. As I said before, I will watch over here on my own. I will have to mute the desktop audio so you can't even hear the show. Start the stopwatch at around the same time so you have a general idea of where I am in it, and we'll go from there. But yeah, let's do it. Let's go ahead and watch the Amazing Digital Circus pilot for the very first time, very late to the game. Okay. And if you are interested in syncing up and watching along, I will go ahead and start it. 3, 2. Oh, hang on. No, not quite yet. Stop my music. I will start it up in 3, 2, 1, go. There you go. Okay. Okay. PS1 vibes just for that initial intro. Interesting choice. I don't like Kane's voice actor. There's a chain chomp, I guess. Is this I know it's very early on, but is this really gonna be a "Don't hug me, I'm scared" like basic misdirection of, oh, it looks like a kid's show, but it's not? Okay. The theme song has stopped. Okay. I don't um I'm just gonna go ahead and apologize, but I'm not crazy about any of the voice acting so far. Okay. Okay. So is it an SAO thing here? You die in the video game, you die in real life? Hmm. Ah, censored naughty words. Okay. No swearing. Okay. Very funny. Um Definite Tumblr vibes, I guess I would say. Just the overall perspective and sense of humor so far feels very Tumblr. I do like there's a character here who's kind of like a a manifestation of 90s graphic design all in one character. That's neat. It is a neat looking character. Funnily enough, I also think that some of the character designs would work better for me in 2D rather than 3D. Specifically the rabbit character. I just, something about the render isn't quite working for me. But it is a cool design. Okay. The score music is interesting too. I assume it's all custom stuff composed just for this project, but part of it sounds kind of stock or almost like just old video game music. I guess I should be paying more attention. They're explaining some stuff here. Okay. Okay. So there's a location literally called the Void. I get again Tumblr vibes. Now we're getting some 2D animation. The moon is a piece of 2D animation here. Okay. I'm sure many other people have drawn this comparison too. But have you heard about Penny's Big Breakaway? An upcoming video game with this as the main character, who's like a circus performer. I'm not implying any kind of foul play. I just think it's a funny coincidence. I'm sure this has been in the works for a long time, but it's a very similar vibe to me. Oh, here's some 2D art. Yeah, look, like that rabbit looks great in 2D. And then we just have Raggedy Ann for some reason. I don't know what. Raggedy Ann and Sally, I guess, from Nightmare. Okay, lead character has the best voice acting so far. I apologize for saying that I didn't like any of the voice acting across the board. And this is the character I was talking about who looks like, late 80s, 90s graphic design all rolled into one. It's great. Okay, pretty referencey sense of humor too. They just had a joke where the what do you call him, ringleader guy does the fast talk thing you hear at the ends of pharmaceutical commercials. Earlier, he made the noises of a dial-up modem, so like certainly referencing. There you go. There was a joke that made me laugh. How far in are we? Oh, 6.5 minutes in. Okay. Been a lot of exposition so far, but I guess it's not that surprising for a pilot. It's a chain chomp. There's a character here. Do we have any images of this character? There's a character creature thing, this thing. It doesn't usually have teeth like this. It's just a chain chomp, right? And I'm assuming we're getting plenty of fan art by now too, right? This looks like fan art to me. This also very much looks The censoring of the swears, the censoring of the cuss words is very minimal. Like they really want you to know exactly what each swear is. Omni is our lead character, I guess. Oh, all right. It sounds like they're saying pommy, but it's pomni, right? Look, pomni. Can I quickly say something about the name Jax, just in general? Uh, I'll take that as a yes. So a good while ago, I worked for a company that it was an app that did dog walking stuff. So I was in their corporate headquarters at a very lowly job. Anyway, long story short, all day long I would see lists of dog names that we had to, we had to get them walks, right? Uh, Jax was easily one of like the 5 most common names I would see on there. And I don't, is it a reference to something? Is it just a name people happen to like? It's so common. Omni is not very common as a name, but Jax is. Strange mix. Okay. Okay, we also have this character here. Their face is either the tragedy or comedy masks of theater iconography, I guess, which is also a fun idea. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up a little bit of what's actually going on. Does uh does the show think that it's more that it's darker than it actually is? I am getting that sense from some of the recent dialogue here. Oh, they really like the whole vaporwave look, huh? The animation on his mouth on Jax looks great, by the way. There's a nice like slide or like wave to it instead of just open and closing like symmetrically. It's always kind of moving back and forth. I really like that. Abstracted. What does this mean? There's some sheet music. Okay. We're learning that you can become abstracted, which is what this image is showing us, actually. With wingdings, I guess, for some reason. Okay. Okay, so glitching is key here. Digital is an apt word here, to include in the title. Uh, it's definitely a motif, to say the least. Furious music plays. What an interesting descriptor. Piece of score music. A shirt. By the way, just a quick note. Yeah, if you go to watch this yourself, man, are they pushing their merch. They really want you to take a look at the merch. Okay, we are about halfway through. Uh-huh. Sorry if I get quiet for a bit. Yeah, I'm trying to process, I guess. Trying to wrap my head around everything going on here. And what I should and shouldn't say, honestly, about it. So is Jax like Sanji vibes? Is that what you get from this? Okay, all right. You know what? I should be taking notes. I should be making some notes of all this, just in case we want to talk about this video or something later. Pomni is starting to glitch out. It is hard to look at a glitching character. I wonder if there's any sort of like epilepsy warning with this kind of stuff. I mean, I didn't see one for sure, but I wonder if it's a concern for people with epilepsy. Uh-huh. Nice gesture animation right now on Pomni as well. Love some good hand gestures that actually feel natural to the character. It's a great tool for characterization. One of the signs on the doors there is just like a drawing mannequin. Not sure why. Okay, she's running around and seeing spooky stuff. Shades of Mad Mod from Teen Titans. If you remember, I think it was a 2-part episode, right? At Mad Mod's mansion. It was. Okay. All right. We have our glitched, abstracted monster Kaufmo here. I kind of am ready for it to wrap up. 25 minutes is a long stretch, like even for, plenty of big professional, you know what I mean, like broadcast animated shows are still 11 minutes per episode, or 22 at the most, right? Because of just commercial breaks and stuff. So going for 25 here, I guess they just felt it was completely, necessary. It's a really good proof of concept, and we can't argue that at all. Like it's the success. It's all that matters here. Okay. I don't think I'm doing a great job of keeping up. I'll blame that on myself. I'm not going to say that like show's fault for leaving me behind. I think they're doing their best here to handle a lot of different things. Eh, okay. Barrel of Monkeys. That's a weirdly specific like toy reference, I guess, in this kind of setting. Maybe just because of Toy Story specifically, because everything else has been sort of generalized versions of their toy inspirations, except I guess for Raggedy Ann or whatever this character is actually named, who is just Raggedy Ann. Okay. Getting slightly more cynical here as it progresses. Okay. Yeah, it's starting to drag just a little bit for me. That's okay. It can be casual viewing. How's your day been? What's going on? I have to admit that one of my favorite things about supposedly personalized ads on my Gmail account that they don't seem to be personalized at all. Like I don't know what data they're scraping to determine that these are the ads for me, but they're really not. I just don't get it. I just don't understand how they decide on those. Okay. Kinger is our chess piece character. Okay, Cap. Just to in case anyone doesn't have the visual, Omni is currently going through the game, the Stanley's Parable. Basically, she goes through a door, and there's a gray, ugly room, very much back rooms, a liminal creepy pasta kind of fare, and she's very frustrated that doing the same thing over and over again doesn't seem to be working out. Now there's a desk that looks almost exactly like the opening of Stanley Parable. Okay. I feel like this has been my most common facial expression through this whole thing. Oh, there's our drawing mannequins. We got them. Chain Chomp is back. Hmm. Okay. We must be near the end by now, right? Okay, we got another 3 minutes or so. All right. Yoke. All right. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm all set. All right. The Chain Chomp is apparently a bubble character. Kind of funny. Okay. We know this song. There's a song. Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. Mimi Humphrey says hello. How's it going, Mimi? Welcome. How you doing today? Okay. I have made it to the credits. I made it. Um wow, they're even showing the merch in the credits. Have you watched this yet, Mimi? Have you checked out the amazing Digital Circus yet? This is what I've been doing. And just finished it. So now what I would like to do is have a quick chat. Let's have a chat about it. Here, let me get my music going again. I apologize for the all it's been for the last half hour. It's just my face in static Chrome windows, so I apologize for that. Um, but yeah, we have some things to say about this. And again, if anybody would like to offer their 2 cents, go for it. More than happy to have a chat and field any opinions. But what I'll be doing along the way here, I think, is breaking this down into yay and because I think these do kind of summarize my overall feelings about the short here. There's plenty of yay, and there's also quite a bit of at least for me, and my personal taste. Uh, and then, of course, I won't be able to show any clips. I have a feeling they're being extremely strict with content ID for this project. That has definitely been the case for other very successful indie animation projects like Has Been Hotel. Like, you can't, like, don't you dare show a 3-second clip of Has Been Hotel or you will be struck down, Sweaters too, not just plushes they're doing. But anyway, I will be able to show just like some stills, I guess. I'll be able to show you some stills of what we've got here, because there are definitely a lot of things to talk about in terms of the visuals happening here. Story is another subject. I won't be able to show you specific lines of dialogue, but we'll get to it. And I'll try not to let this stretch on for too long, because I am worried I'll fall asleep any moment, just due to lack of sleep in general. But yeah, where should we start? Okay. Okay. So, okay. Well, let's start with the headline. Okay, new original animation. This is a completely uh, original concept. Well, how to phrase that? It is indeed a brand new property. This is a brand new thing. It is not. It's not. It is independent, regardless of whatever kind of funding they had access to make this in the first place. Whatever kind of team they had access to, it's still an accomplishment. They did it. It is indeed independent. Uh, those are very positive points. That's really great news. We are happy about that. We want to see more original work. And hey, if we're not gonna get it from Fox's animation domination, if we're not gonna get it from Netflix, original animation most of the time, here it is. It is being provided to us right here. And for the moment, basically free of charge. Like you can support it financially if you want to, but this is being offered for free. Great way to get traction, and it has indeed gone viral. So like this is a successful approach for them. Good job. And just the overall success, like the success in itself is a major accomplishment here. I don't know how many I don't know who these people are. I don't know how many subscribers they had prior to launching this. I don't even know if this is their very first project. Regardless, this much traction is huge. It's huge. And like, if they stopped right now, if they abandoned this property, which would obviously be a mistake, but if they did decide to do that and just say, we would rather work on other stuff, this makes careers. At the very least, this launches career, right? Like if you were not previously accepted into the fold of professional animation, you are now. Like you've done it. This is your resume. You're all set. And I am happy for that. That's a good thing. I think. And there are unique voices on display here. Great stuff. Where some of the comes into play for me is really I think maybe like the vision here. And it's not something where I'm trying to present this as an incredibly objective criticism. I'm not trying to say like this is just how it is, deal with it. No, this is all based on personal preference, but the vision here, the eye they have, the ideas they're really prioritizing here, it's just not for me. And that is definitely not where I wanted to land with this at all. I didn't want to come away from this thinking, but I am thinking, quite a bit. It's just not, it's not this, like, I guess I would call it like vaporwave nostalgia. Like vaporwave upon, in its resurgence in like the early 2010s was already based on nostalgia for previous graphical look and style and vibe. Now that, I guess, is being treated as nostalgic, and it probably is legitimately nostalgic for plenty of younger people, younger viewers. And it's such a mishmash. And maybe that's part of the overall intention here, is like there are supposed to be a bunch of sort of haphazard assets that feel like they're from completely different styles. Maybe that's all on purpose, or like this intro here at the very start of, I can't even play that much, but it starts off looking very low poly and very low resolution, and then quickly transitions to higher resolution, high poly, contemporary CG animation stuff, right? But regardless, they're clearly intentionally referencing previous graphic art styles, eras of computer animation. You get Veggie Tales from this sometimes. You get really early DIY vibes, even from stuff like this where they have incredibly high gloss textures or effects on a lot of objects where they just feel straight up out of place compared with plenty of other objects and textures. I wish I could find another example, but I don't know if I'll be able to in this form. Anyway, so it's a big mix, and again, maybe that's what they were going for. Um, Maybe it was just sort of an unintentional side effect of relatively limited resources and timelines and budgets and everything. Um, but yeah, again, it doesn't quite do it for me. I and I guess that's the biggest of all at like a conceptual level is that not just Tumblr vibes, but it is so much webcore basically. Not just webcore music genre, but like it really is dead set on aiming for things that we all know the internet likes. There are certain things that people who are incredibly online really like. They like creepy stuff. They especially like creepy stuff that initially appears to be cute or for children, but then the tables turn. We know they like liminal spaces. We know they like those back rooms kinds of videos. Just, yeah, creepypasta in general, for sure. It seems to be a massive influence here. And just creepy vibes, I guess, in a really broad sense. Also, I don't know, even just specific phrase, just having a literal location called the Void. Yeah, my mind immediately goes to Tumblr, posts like parodying really happy vlogs and saying like, here's my morning routine, do a cute thing, get my fancy coffee, stare into the void for 3 hours, go off to school. Like, it's a very particular POV. It's very much a, we're not like the other girls kind of angle, I think. At least that's how I receive so much of this shorts style. And it's what, I don't know. Another way to describe it is like appealing to people on the level of not everybody's going to like this. This is very niche. But it turns out that these are things that just about everybody shares. Like, these are incredibly common tastes, especially on the internet. It's not niche at all, but everybody wants to feel like it is. And that was one of the comments I brought up, in the thick of it all here when I was actually watching the pilot, is I did have the sense of, particularly this character whose name I still don't know, it does a big monologue, There's a lot of exposition here in general, a whole lot, probably more than was necessary. But in particular, this character goes off on a big rant where they bring in the creepy horror music, and it's supposed to be like, oh, she's talking about really scary, serious stuff. Like, you're going to lose your mind in here. It's crazy, man. And I don't know, something about the predictability of the editing there, and especially sound design and music direction, and just the content of what they were saying. Like, I never felt that the dialogue was actually especially well written at all. It's very surface level in terms of hitting on certain topics or alluding to certain threats. Not even vague. It just feels like, oh, we had this idea, but we're not really that good at dialogue, so this is the best we could do. And yeah, as I said, while watching it, I did kind of feel like, oh, it thinks it's edgier than it is. And again, it appeals to a certain audience sensibility. And a certain type of audience. And I do think at some point I was a member of that audience where I really wanted to feel like, oh, they're speaking to me, my kind of person, and nobody else feels the way I do about this. They get me. But no, it's incredibly common stuff. It's ultimately very broad while trying to appear niche or edgy or specific. Okay, so that's that. That's the big point. I know I am being a little bit mean there, but that is really just based on my personal preference and my prior experience with this kind of work, I guess. Um, I guess I don't know. Music was not really crazy about. Same thing, I think, with sound effects. Just not really. They are trying to be over the top, goofy sound effects, and referencing that in a sarcastic way of like, oh, it seems like it's a kid show, but it's not. Um, I'll say overall though, character design I do like, I guess, except for Kane. Maybe Kane is eyeballs and teeth man. I don't. Not again, just not for me, and not like appealing to me, and I don't like the voice actors, so it's kind of a perfect storm there. But what else do we have to say here? Okay, a quick thing I guess is environments. Now I mentioned already it does feel like a hodgepodge a lot of the time in terms of assets, style, art direction. Even if that is intentional, I do think it's a downside here that none of the places feel memorable to me. Like this space of a bunch of junk just everywhere. I only have a sense of I only have a memory of this place because we spend so much of the short here, especially early on. And it just doesn't yeah, doesn't quite work for me. Oh, here's a really good example of that incredibly high gloss effect or texture on the floor here that just feels directly reminiscent of, yeah, late 80s into the early 90s for CG animation shorts. Yeah, so there's that. Sorry, I should finish my point about the environments. Yeah, none of them really feel memorable to me or even like particularly intentionally designed. Like they're just there. They just needed some, and it especially applies to when our characters start moving around. There's a giant slide for some reason. I guess this is like a cave where the big slug creature is, but I just don't. I don't feel the sense of place. I don't get any kind of strong, sensation from this environment at all, and I do think that's a detriment. Really. I mean, another level of that is geography. There is no real geography here. They even do some exposition early on of showing us like a world map, basically, and like, oh, here's a circus tent where we are, I think. And then there's an amusement park, and then just like one water slide over there at different scales. They tried to give us some geography there, a feeling of like, oh, I understand where we are in relation to other locations in this world. But everything else, I have no idea. I have no sense. Even within this one room, like I'm struggling to find the landmarks. We're like, oh, this person's standing over there, which is to the left of here. I just don't. It doesn't quite work for me. There's a long hallway somewhere. There's a cave somewhere. Sure, these spaces here are completely detached from the rest of the short, so whatever, you don't need to relate that geography. The void is nothing. Okay, fine, that works. But yeah, there's also an escalator at one point, and it's just like, I don't know. I would like to feel some sense of grounding, like if it was part of the intention to discomfit us and make us feel alienated from the space and disoriented. Disoriented is the word I'm looking for. Okay, fair enough. But again, yeah, it doesn't quite work for me and does make it feel a little bit more amateurish, I guess, than I was expecting. But that's also just like a natural, result maybe of the sheer levels of hype here and attention and success. I really was expecting quite a bit, and it delivers in certain ways. And is and really does work, and I can see what the intent is. And there are other areas that just really don't feel finished. Who knows? Maybe that is just a natural result of limited budget and resources, and maybe it will have a completely different look when this inevitably gets funding of at least $1 million, several $1 million to make the full show. But for now, yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag for me. I guess I'll leave it there. I don't want to keep criticizing this. And I was on the fence. I do not think I'll be making a video about this. I don't think it would really be worth it. I don't particularly enjoy trying to rain on a parade, and that's exactly what I would be doing. Like, I don't think there's a lot of value to me making a whole video about how, oh, it's just not for me. I don't really, it doesn't connect with me, because overall I want them to continue to be successful. I appreciate that indie animation like this exists at all. Positives, total net positive overall, compared to just about any average professionally, animated TV show or streaming show. But unfortunately, not something where I feel hooked, not something where I feel like I really connect with it. That's okay, that's all right. I still would love to hear from some other folks. I'll hang around for a few more minutes, I think, and I'll have to get going. I actually have some more work to do tonight and need to eat food at some point, I think. But yeah, I guess I'm glad. I'm glad I finally sat down to watch it. Don't know if it really made for a great stream, but we gave it a shot at the very least. I guess I'll leave the stream up. I think I'll leave it up for people to watch. Yeah, should we go ahead and look at... So are they exclusively seeking funding through merch? Maybe it's a situation where the merch is a side thing. That's what can come from the fans, but they're probably seeking funding from, like, investors, right? Or producers or something. Okay. All right. Seeing anything you like? All right. Steve, good character design on Jax. Jax does look good. Yeah. Omni, I don't know. Famous because of a thumbnail? Maybe. Do you ever feel comfortable paying $30 for a t-shirt, by the way? Like, has there ever been a time where, there's just something, a t-shirt you really wanted, not a hoodie. $30 for a hoodie is not that bad. But $30 for a t-shirt, whether it's at like a concert or a regular old department store or, online shop, I don't think I've ever been willing to pay $30 for a t-shirt. And then it's always $50 for the sweater, and you're like, well, if it's a good sweater, yeah. But what if it's not? Oh my gosh. Also, this is like not the best controlled experiment, of course, but I do think this is genuinely a good way to gauge out. There are other ways you could do it too, but it's a good way to gauge popularity of specific characters, right? This was a pilot. They can make big changes when they move on to the full show. Which of your merch sells the best? Even just between Pomni and Jax, who's going to really take off? I mean, Jax is just it's a much more, I don't know, distinctive character design to me. And like, I again, other than Pomni being in the thumbnail and like the lead character, I don't feel like the design screams Amazing Digital Circus to me quite yet. Also, the eyes being the Umbrella Corp logo is an interesting choice. But yeah, so there you go. So you can support them directly through the merch. And that is that. And I'm sure they will do just fine with, seeking funding elsewhere. Right. Yeah, that's that. I don't know. I should probably leave it there, right? I should probably stop talking by now. Okay, well, all right. I guess we'll leave it there. As always, thank you to the folks who managed to come out and watch live. Especially big thanks to the folks hanging out in the chat. It's been a very quiet chat this round, which is always kind of tough. But regardless, thank you guys, and especially because I think both of you in the chat were new folks here. I don't think I've seen you here before, so really appreciate you coming out and checking the channel. I do typically stream it Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific time. If it changes, I'll mark it in the listing for the next stream. But yeah, and also, of course, thank you to the few dozen folks who watch the archive version of the streams later on. Really appreciate it, and it really does basically keep the channel afloat at this point. It's just decent watch times, and YouTube is like, oh, he's still doing stuff. he's still active on the platform. But yeah, I think that's all I got. Thank you, everyone, once again. I hope I wasn't too harsh. I hope I didn't make anybody upset about this short. I really do. I'm very happy this exists, and I wish them all the best. And I'm absolutely interested to see what else they make in the future. I'll be watching it. You know, day one they release this full series. I'm there. I am there. I am 100% prepared to give them every other chance to kind of convert me some more, or to let me connect with the show a bit more. So there we go. All right, cool. All right, well, until next time, thanks for stopping by.